doing, everybody? And welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. Today, joined by Austin. Austin, how we doing today on this Monday?
Trage, I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm actually very happy on this Monday, and I think we all know why.
Austin's very happy. He's very happy, and why? Because the Green Bay Packers pulled it out. I wouldn't say that it was the prettiest of wins. It definitely could have gone a lot better for the Packers in that one. But hey, win's a win at the end of the day. Young team, get into the playoffs, get some experience going on there for Green Bay. So we're going to be talking about that today, covering this Monday with the Packers. Also looking at the Bucs. They were in action over the weekend, took a loss over the weekend there. We're going to be talking about that, and then a big game coming up tonight here to get back on track going up against the Utah Jazz. Also looking at the Badgers, men's basketball, they got a massive win against Nebraska over the weekend, a blowout win against Nebraska. We got to look at that game there. Marquette, they took the loss to Seton Hall. We got to look at that one a little bit, see what went wrong there for the Golden Eagles, and then just diving into a little bit more college basketball along the way. So with that right away, we're going to jump into the Bucs. Bucs took the loss to the Rockets there, 112-108. That was a rough game for the Bucs. Looking at that first quarter, 18 points by the Bucs there in the first quarter. 18 points by an NBA basketball team in the first quarter. You don't see that too often, that low scoring of a first quarter output, especially by a team with the chemistry, the build, everything like that of the Bucs. What you expect out of a Bucs team to kind of falter as bad as they did against this Rockets team. It was definitely interesting to see. They came back a little bit there after that, 25 in the second, and then the second half looked a lot better, but you can't win a basketball game only putting up 18 in that first quarter when you're giving up 29. So definitely something to look at there. Austin, what did we see for stats there in that one that kind of set this game apart?
I mean, the biggest thing is you see from Giannis, he got his 48 points and 17 rebounds, and Lillard scored 18, but nothing else really from the Bucs. The main contributors for Houston was Sengun. We talked about that before in the podcast. Before that, he had 21 points, but they had a lot more contributors on their offensive side with the starters and also the bench.
Yeah, you look at that bench for that Rockets team, and like you're saying there, you had 16 from Green, Whitmore added 12, and Holiday had 11. Just an offensive output from the bench of the Rockets that was key in this one. And then you flip to the opposite side where the Bucs, and looking at the Bucs, that was just atrocious scoring on there. Looking at Bobby, 6 points, 9 from Connaughton. What do you think? Looking at these stats, what do you do? That's the big question for the Bucs right now is what do you do here moving forward?
I think this was the first time the Bucs actually had decent defense. We held the team to 112 points, but now we go to the offensive side, and our top scorer on the bench was Pat Connaughton, like you said, with 9 points. He even outscored Brook Lopez and Beasley, the starters, almost combined there. And so you have to look at the starters too, and you have to ask yourself, what are they contributing to the team? Because right now, we scored 100. This has to be one of the lowest scoring games by the Bucs in a while. I can't remember the last time they got under at least 120. It's been a minute that they've done that, but I feel like our defense, when you look at 112, I feel like the defense is somewhat decent. But then again, looking at their stats, a lot of players in double figures for the Houston Rockets. And then it's like, well, did they really play defense? I don't know. And our offense was atrocious. 9 for 34 for 3-pointers there, while they went 13 for 34. So, they shot four more 3-pointers than us, and they just outshot us when it went to the when they got to the rack there. They shot 83 times. We shot 76 times. They made when you look at the free throws, there was a lot of free throws in this game too. The Bucs shot 42 but only made 29. Right there's your points. You want to look at points? Talk about Giannis going 15 for 21 at the free throw line. That'll do it right there. And this has been a thing going on for Giannis for how many years now? Where I feel like he's improved a little bit, but he's still struggling, and it's clear to see that he's still struggling with the free throw line there.
And when I look at this Bucs team here, having guys like Brook Lopez, and I don't take anything away from Brook because Brook has had some decent games for the Bucks this year, but if you put it as a whole, Brook Lopez isn't as big on the offensive end as what the Bucks need out of him. Middleton hasn't been as big for what the Bucks need out of him. You're relying so heavily on Giannis. You look at this game, Giannis doesn't have as good of a night as what he does, 48 points there on 16 of 25 shooting. He doesn't have 48 points. The Bucks aren't even in this game against the Rockets. Damian Lillard has one of his probably worst offensive performances for the Bucks this year, and he musters up 18 points. The rest of them, I mean, we had Middleton get into double figures, but that's it. That was it for this Bucks team. For a team that's got some of the stars in that starting lineup there, and you cannot muster up any more than that in that playing time, you're missing pieces. This team is farther away from a championship caliber team than we thought. You know, we thought going into this year, we thought the addition of Damian Lillard was going to put him over the top. Offensive efficiency was going to put him over the top. I think they regressed a lot. I think this team's chemistry went down. I mean, and looking at this team, the chemistry went down. The playing as a team, that's a big thing with that chemistry that I want to build off of there, is the team play is definitely not there. It seems like it's a one-sided show, and it can't flow like that for the Bucks to be successful. So for me right now, I don't think they have enough star power. I really don't. I don't think they have enough scorers on this team. I think they're lacking another big man, another true big man. Bobby can play the big, but I don't think he's a true big. And I think they're missing that right now, not having somebody for Brook and having Brook Lopez in there, who, I mean, he's averaging 12.5 a game right now. But for a team that's lacking scoring, 12.5 is nothing. I mean, you look at their scoring per game right now, Giannis 31, Damian Lillard 25, and then it drops off. 14 for Middleton, 12 for Brook Lopez, 12 for Bobby, and 11 for Beasley. That's it. That's it for scoring across the board, points per game right now for this Bucks team. I don't know. I really don't. I'm baffled with this Bucks team. You look at what Giannis had to say after this loss, and he goes, well, it starts with the equipment managers washing our jerseys, and it goes all the way up to coaching and the players and the stars and everything in between. You're right, but how are you going to write it? We can keep talking about it. Adrian Griffin can keep talking about it, but we've seen this problem with the Bucks. You know, we talked about after the Spurs game. That was a close game, but it shouldn't have been close. Now you get into a game against the Rockets, should have won. I mean, the Rockets aren't a bad team. I'm not saying they're not a decent team, but the Bucks, how they're built and what they're supposed to be this year. I mean, we got Damian Lillard, and our odds-on favorite to go to the finals went through the roof. Everybody was like, the Bucks are the talk of the town. Not anymore. We're far from it. I mean, would you honestly, Austin, say right now, if you had to pick a team to come out of the East, would the Bucks be in your top three? Because for me right now, I wouldn't have the Bucks for a guarantee in the top three in the East right now to get out of that into the NBA Finals.
I mean, yeah, you look at the Celtics. Celtics got to be number one, and then even though Philly had a tough outing against the team that the team that they just lost to, they lost. It was the Knicks. They got beat up pretty bad by the Knicks. But, I mean, Philly's still always there. And then the Knicks themselves, too, they're up there. I mean, and if you even want to put the Pacers up there, because the Bucks can't even beat the Pacers, so I feel like you can't even put the Bucks above the Pacers. I mean, that's four teams right there. Even though the Pacers, they don't have the best record, they always play well. Like, the Bucks have not been able to figure them out. So even if those two end up facing against each other, who are you going to pick? You can't. I mean, a lot of people are probably going to go against the Bucks. I mean, those are just four teams right there that you could probably put above the Bucks. So, yeah, like you said, not even top three. And then when you look at overall favorites in the NBA, not just in the Eastern, but also Western, I mean, that even gets the gap gets larger then because you got the Timberwolves. You got, I don't even know, you can probably just still count the Lakers just because they're the Lakers. The Suns, the Mavs. There's just so many more teams that you can count, and then you're just dropping the Bucks farther and farther down. This was a bad game by the Bucks. This was a bad outing by the Bucks, and this one just needs to get put in the past because, especially against a Houston team that's not very. I mean, they don't have a lot of star power either. You look at Houston, they got do they really even have? They don't really got anybody. Their top scorer is a center who personally I've never heard of, and that's nothing disrespectful to him, but I mean I've never heard of the guy. So, I mean, should we be losing to this team? No, we shouldn't. We have all the star power, and maybe this comes down to coaching. That's honestly probably what it's coming down to, is the coaching. I mean, and Giannis, like you said the quote, and Giannis mentioned that in his quote too. And we need to have better leadership, better coaching, and apparently better equipment staff. So I mean, it's everything. Everything is just not going good for the Bucks, and this comes off of them. I mean, you look at their schedule here. I mean, they beat San Antonio, but they lost 2 straight to the Pacers. They were on a little bit of a winning streak there, but I mean, since they played New York, they lost to New York 129 to 122 on Christmas. They beat Brooklyn and Cleveland, who are subpar teams, and then they lost to the Pacers twice. Barely beat San Antonio by 4 points, who's not very good, and now they just lost to Houston, who's pretty mid. So the road doesn't get any easier either if you continue to look on their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad stretch of basketball by the Bucks, and it's something that the only person who can fix it right now, besides a players only meeting where these guys get together and try to figure it out, is Adrian Griffin needs to figure this out. Right now, that man has got to be on the hot seat there in Milwaukee to figure it out pretty darn soon. Because of the amount of star power you got, it's hard not to win basketball games. And if you're struggling against the bottom part of the league, how are you going to go up against the Nuggets? How are you going to face teams like the Timberwolves? Even the Oklahoma City Thunder, that's a young team, but they're playing well. How are you going to match up with them if you can't match up with the San Antonio Spurs and blow them out of the water? I have not seen the Bucks blow a team out of the water. We want to be optimistic. We want to be optimistic as much as we can. But as of right now, I don't see the light. I don't see that bright spot right now to look at besides the fact that Giannis is playing well. I mean, that's all I can say. Giannis is playing well. That's it. Otherwise, I can see hole on top of hole in this Buck team right now. Defense has got a big contributor in that. Team chemistry. Do we think the team chemistry is there yet? I mean, we expected the team chemistry to take a little bit to pick itself up because Dame wasn't really added until late. I mean, he wasn't right on the team at the start of the offseason. It was about midway through. So, I mean, team chemistry was going to take a little bit, but this long to build a team, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they make trade deadline deals that work faster in this, and the chemistry's there faster in this. So I don't know what's going on behind closed doors in Milwaukee. But as of right now, there's a lot of change that needs to happen and a lot of fixing that needs to happen there for the Bucks. And, I mean, tonight's the bounce back night, right? Going up against the Utah Jazz, they're 17-20 on the season. The Bucks back at home, they're 16-3 at home. So you know they got things cooking at the Pfizer. So leading into this one, I mean, the Bucks have that, the momentum of the home win streak or the home game. Well, they don't have the win streak anymore. They lost to the Pacers there at home, but they have the home cooking going this year. So, Austin, what are we looking at for stats here for the Jazz in this one? Some of the key guys to watch out for.
Yeah, probably the big 3 for the Jazz. Lauri Markkanen, he got picked up by the Jazz this year, I'm pretty sure, or within the past 3 years, I know. He's averaging 23.6 points per game and 8.4 rebounds. Jordan Clarkson, a pretty good point guard for them, 17 points per game. And then Colin Sexton, who he used to be on the Cleveland Cavaliers there. I know he's a pretty good basketball player, and he's averaging 15.9 points per game. As a team, they're averaging 114.6 points per game. So, I mean, they're definitely going to have to score over 108 like they did last game against the Houston Rockets there.
Yeah, and right now, looking at the Jazz, 6-15 on the road. They're not a good traveling team, so coming to Milwaukee, this is a game the Bucks got to get right. You got to get right tonight here against the Jazz going into this one. Looking at, like you're talking there, some of the top performers. Colin Sexton, I mean, I love that game. He played at Alabama. They played I think it was at Minnesota when they played him, and the bench got tossed out of the game, and then they had 2 guys fall out. So I'm pretty sure the last, I think it was 5, 6, 7 minutes, it was a majority of the game was played with 3 guys. And Colin Sexton was one of those guys, and they actually played Minnesota well in that game of 3-on-5. So Colin Sexton made a name for himself in that one. He is a dynamic guard. I mean, he can play it. He can play well. And looking at him right now over the last 10, you just said his overall points there, 19.1 points over his last 10 games so far. So he's been playing well over those last 10 games for the Jazz. The Jazz actually coming into this game, 7-3 in their last 10 games. They're hot. That record, the overall record there of 17-20, doesn't really prove what the Jazz have been up to, because 7-3 in their last 10, average about 121 per game right now. 40. They are actually shooting 48% from the field right now, holding opponents to 116. Bucks might have their hands full. I mean, this is a Jazz team that still trying to figure themselves out. Never really got back to it after Donovan Mitchell left. But this Jazz team isn't the greatest. So this is a game the Bucks got to get right. Looking at this one, Bucks 6-4 in their last 10, averaging about 124 a game right now. So not too far off of what this Jazz team has done over their last 10 games. Jazz looking good coming into this one. Should be a pretty good matchup for the Bucks. Looking at injury reports as of right now, looks like the Bucks are going to, without Jay Crowder. But other than that, the Bucks are pretty much healthy there. And then the Jazz, nobody listed on the injury report for the Jazz. So everybody should be out there for Utah coming up tonight. Bucks sitting at 25-11 right now. They're actually only 4 games up now of the Cleveland Cavaliers there in the central standings. So not real. I mean, it's getting dicey. It's getting close. I mean, they're getting close in the standings right now, not just in those standings, but I want to jump over here and look at the overall standings. The Bucks sitting, if the 76ers wouldn't be on their own losing streak right now, the Bucks would be sitting in 3rd place. But 76ers are struggling as of late too. Losers of 2 straight now. They're 5-5 in their last 10, so they're starting to fall apart. But like you were talking before, there was some of the teams there behind them. Orlando Magic, like we just talked there with the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're just behind them there. There's a lot of teams in the East who are looking up at the Bucks and saying, hey, we can catch you guys pretty darn soon here if you don't figure it out. So definitely a game tonight the Bucks got to get right. That should be a big matchup. Should be a good matchup there. Looks like it's going to be, get her to load back in here. It's going to be a 7 o'clock tip there from the Pfizer. I believe that one will be on Bally Sports tonight there from the Pfizer. Bucks favored in this one. Should be a big matchup coming up tonight here. So Bucks, Jazz coming up 7 o'clock. But with that, I want to talk about Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Right now, they are running a massive sale. Big sale happening now. True Hockey City Flight hoodies are 25% off, only $60. Usually $80. They are sitting at $60. Blowout prices on the True Catalyst and Hazardous hockey sticks right now. Also, in exciting news, now available Speed Tech Fleece, some comfort sweatshirts for comfort and style. Corporate wear, full zip hoodies for warm-ups, joggers, and your choice of and you get to customize your sweatshirt any way you want. They got embroidering down there, so they can customize your sweatshirt, your hoodie, whatever you decide to get from them in your style. So awesome news there from Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Check them out at gamedaysupply.net or at their location in Onalaska. And if you go onto our Facebook page right now, we are running a deal. We have a gift card there for $100 listed on the Facebook page. So you can enter that drawing there. Just like the page, share it to your feed, and then you are automatically entered into the drawing there for that $100 gift card that will be chosen on Friday. The drawing will end on Friday, so actually we will announce the winner next Monday. But with that, we got to jump over Wisconsin, Nebraska. Massive matchup there happening in the Big Ten on Saturday. That happened on Saturday there. And if I could get it to pull up here. Got myself lost there. The internet is, for some reason, kicking out on me here.
You lost in the sauce trade, John.
I'm lost in it right now. We are going to find our way back, though. I know we can. We're better than this. We can find our way back. Got to pull it up on my phone real fast. The iPad's the one being slow. Looking at this one, Badgers pulled out the win 88-72. The final score looked a lot closer than what it really was. In this one, Badgers 51 points in that first half compared to Nebraska's 38%. Looking at that second half for the Badgers, 37 points compared to Nebraska's 34. Looking at this game in a whole, Badgers controlled it basically from the opening tip. Dominant shooting from the Badgers, and we're going to get into that a little bit here. Austin, what do we see for stats from Wisconsin and Nebraska in this one? Some of the key players that we saw in this. It was a massive matchup there in the Big Ten.
Yeah, huge matchup, and like you said, we were able to – it looks a lot closer than it is, but we were able to get out right away, and we had a lot of contributors, not just from our starters, but also on the bench. But like Tyler Wall had 17 points in this game, 8 rebounds. He kind of started from the beginning there. He was kind of hot right at the bat, taking it to the post, and but also doing a lot of different moves there. Also, Hepburn had 13 points to add onto that, and AJ Storr had 10. But then there's also guys on the bench. I mean, we finally saw Connor Sejan do something. And I mean, I don't think his defense was terrible either. He had 12 points and 1 rebound, but 12 points all coming on 3-pointers there. He went 4 for 7 there. So definitely a good night for Sejan off the bench. And then Blackwell, he also added 12 points there of his own. So overall, two good contributors off the bench.
Yeah, and like you were saying there, the big thing that I saw in that game was that I was sitting there, I was watching my grandma. She loves watching college basketball. We were sitting there watching it. And, we were joking. We're like, he's tired. He's got to be tired. He's got 6 minutes in the first half. He's got to be tired. He hasn't played over 2 minutes in so long. He's got to be tired at 6. But, I mean, it was just joking around. But, I mean, man, that was just – his defense looked good. It was like we heard from guard for a while there that guard was, giving him the business, getting into him, telling him that his defense wasn't good enough, this and that. And he was making it known. And for a while there, I was kind of like, okay, we're putting a lot on Connor Essegian here, but what about the rest of the guys? It's not just Connor. There's a lot of bad defense being played across the board. Why are we just holding Connor accountable? In this one, I thought it paid off because I thought Connor Essegian finally played great defense. We hadn't seen it in a while, and I thought finally we saw great defense out of Connor Essegian, and that was massive. That was massive, and I think that led into his confidence at the offensive end. He hit the first one, and that built up his defense into the point where he was playing well on both ends of the court, and then finally I was like, why are you pulling him out? I mean, it irritated me. It really did. He hit those 2 threes. 2 for 2. He was playing well on the defensive end, and guard goes and subs him out. I was like, what is going on? Why are we pulling? I mean, we can't get too hot, right? Can't get too hot out there. I mean, that's whoa. Can't get too hot. We got to get him cold again. But, I mean, just to see him come back into the game. My biggest worry was he hit those 2 threes. Guard pulled him out. My biggest worry was now he was going to get off again. Because we've seen it before. He's had a couple games this year where he's hit 1, 2 threes, and he just hasn't been able to get in a rhythm. So my worry was when guard pulled him, putting him back in, he was going to be lost, And he came back in and he hit that first 3 when he came back in. I was like, oh boy, here we go. Here we go. We finally got Connor Essegian back to the way he's supposed to be. And that was what I thought was huge. Another thing that, watching the Badgers so far this year, Chucky Hepburn. Last year, I was quoted in saying that I thought Chucky Hepburn was atrocious to watch. And why did I think that? Because I was watching Chucky Hepburn try to do too much. He was trying to do too much on the offensive end. This year, he doesn't. But I think he is so heavily reliant in this offense because of how well he can play with the basketball in his hands, not shooting it. Facilitating the basketball, setting guys up, setting the right play up, different things throughout the game, controlling the game. He knows when to slow it down. He knows when to speed it up. He knows the different tendencies that he needs to do throughout a game. And I think that all came to him when he finally realized, I don't have to do it all. That was the big thing. The addition of AJ Storr, Tyler Wall, finally being healthy, and like you said, a massive game from Tyler Wall, 17 points, just a huge game from Tyler Wall in this one. And, Steven Crowl hitting shots, you had Blackwell and Essegian hitting shots. It proved once again, Chucky doesn't have to do it all. And I thought that was one of the big things that I keep taking away from these games is even though Chucky Hepburn, in this one, Chucky Hepburn didn't have a bad game. I think he had a couple threes in this one. He finished with 13 points. He had 3 threes in the ball game. So, Chucky shot it well, but it was one of those things where 13 points, I don't hold anything against it for 13 points. 13 points was phenomenal out of a guy that I don't expect to be that offensively prone. So, massive game out of Chucky in this one. And I think that's something to look forward to with Chucky is the development of his game. I think from last year to this year, it's just phenomenal.
Something I like to see is that even though we were saying that with the addition of AJ Storr and how he's been getting hot, he's kind of been like the go-to guy if we need a big shot. But you look at the stats here. I mean, he only scored 10 points compared to when he scored 20-something the last game. I don't think we have to rely on him as much as we've had to rely on, say, Johnny Davis as we had in the past. We finally have like a balanced team that we've kind of been waiting for. I mean, we haven't had a balanced team like this since maybe a few years ago before Johnny Davis was there. And now we finally have it back where we don't have to rely on one guy like AJ Storr. Like AJ Storr, he'll get his big game, but here you see he only gets 10 points. But Tyler Wall, he contributed 17. Hepburn has 13. Our bench doing some good damage there. I mean, we didn't have to rely on AJ Storr, and hopefully we continue to have to not do that the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at after that game, looking at Nebraska's head coach came out and he was talking about Wisconsin. He said this is one of the best offensive teams out there. And, you know, we haven't heard that anybody tell anybody that Wisconsin possibly has one of the best offenses in the country. And, I mean, looking at this team, they're putting up points that I didn't expect Wisconsin to be able to do. I mean, that 51 points by the Badgers there in that first half was the most underneath of Greg Gard in the first half there, I believe. I was just trying to pull up that stat there just a second ago. The 51 points in the first half which was the most during the Greg Gard era and their highest scoring output in the first 20 minutes of a game since 1999. That is how, I mean, you're looking back at teams that had Frank Kaminsky, Sam Decker, Josh, I mean, you look at that 2014, 2015 years right there, you had them kind of guys on that team. You look even further back to teams with Orlando Tucker and Michael. I mean, you look at some of the star power that has come through Madison and had those loaded up teams. This team just shattered that. 51 points in the first half. Just everything was rolling for the Badgers. You look at them in this game, 58% from inside the arc and 50% from downtown in this game. 50%. There isn't many games you're going to lose shooting that. You play like that against Arizona, that's a different ball game. Shooting that well in a ball game there. They were averaging about 1.35 points per possession in this game. That's ridiculous. That's scoring just about every possession you walk down the court. The Badgers were coming away with points there. The bad side, you do look at the difference of 72 points. You did give up 72 points. But, and you know, that's what, we were watching that game, and I was watching it go back and forth. And they said something at the half, and they go, well, Wisconsin is on pace to score 102 points this game. And I said it point blank. I was like, they're going to have to because their defense can't slow down Nebraska. They can't. Their defense couldn't slow them down. They were just outscoring them all the way around. I mean, looking at that halftime score, Nebraska wasn't shooting the ball bad. They weren't shooting the ball bad at all. I mean, it was just Wisconsin was 60%. It's hard to beat a team when they're shooting 60% against you. So the offensive output was great. Defensive end still needs work. That's the thing I want to look at there is that the defense, I mean, there was some shots that Tommy Ninga threw up there that were just ridiculous. And I even said it there watching. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, what the heck was that? You can't do nothing to stop that. He's just firing it up at the rim. But at the same time, being better off the ball screen, being better on help side defense and things like that are definitely something Wisconsin needs to work on here moving forward. Other than that, I mean, like we said, 3-pointers were massive, and Connor Essegian. Connor Essegian, hands down, one of the keys to this game was Connor Essegian's play. And I think moving forward, from what I saw in this game, I would trust Connor Essegian there on the defensive end. As long as he keeps playing like he did in this one, I think that's definitely something Wisconsin can build off of there. And like I found the quote, what Fred Hoiberg said about the Badgers. When he said after the game, he said, when they're hitting their shots, it's one of the top teams in the country. We haven't been told that we're one of the top teams in the country in a very long time. So that is actually very good words out of Fred Hoiberg there and kind of a boost to this Badger team, showing how well and how resilient they are. And, you know, they go off of games where they have terrible offensive performances and they hear the outside noise and they hear everybody tell them how bad they are. And, I mean, going to Arizona and getting blown out there, losing that game, losing a couple games here early on in the season and hearing some of the outside noise telling them all the negativity and everything like that. And it's another fluke out of this team. And just the resiliency of this team to keep coming back. And, you know, the biggest resiliency that I can see Connor Essegian. I mean, for a guy who basically, I mean, that last game before this when they played, who the heck did they play before Nebraska here? Iowa.
Yep.
Iowa, he played what? Maybe, I mean, I don't think he even registered for minutes in the game. I'm pretty sure he had 30 seconds that he played in that ball game. Didn't play at all. To come out against Nebraska and put on the show that he did, I thought that was massive. That shows the resiliency of this team. That shows that he's behind his team, and this team is built through playing together. I mean, Wisconsin versus like what we talk about with the Bucks. Wisconsin basketball, you got to play team basketball if you want to be at Wisconsin. That's how this offense works. That's how Wisconsin works. And I think that's the biggest thing and the growth that we've seen is these guys playing together and this team slowly growing. This is just the start. I mean, they're just climbing the mountain. They're just getting into the Big Ten schedule. And right now, if you hypothetically say team build throughout the year, if this is just the start of what we're going to see out of this Wisconsin basketball team, I cannot wait to see what it becomes here. If everybody stays healthy, I cannot wait to see what this Badger team does building slowly throughout the year.
Yeah, when I was down in La Crosse this weekend watching just a bunch of stuff with my bunch of games and whatever with my buddies down there, but I was watching the Badger game, and after the game, we're like, man, this is the first time like I'm actually kind of excited for the Badgers. And I mean, you look at their next, say, even 1, 2, 3, like 6 games maybe. I mean, they play Ohio State, which Ohio State's playing pretty good, but winnable game, very winnable game. I mean, that's at Ohio State, so it's gonna be a little bit tougher. But anyway, Northwestern, who was pretty good. I mean, they beat Purdue, so not a gimme game, but I mean, they lost to Chicago State, so definitely very vulnerable there. They played Penn State, Indiana, Minnesota, Michigan State, Nebraska, and then they play Purdue. So they got a few games. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 games until they play the granddaddy of them all, which is Purdue, and that's going to be at a home game. The first time they play them is a home game, and luckily all the students will be back in Madison, and we're gonna have to pack that one out because, I mean, if we can get this upset, if we can win once against Purdue, like 2 times, it's gonna be hard. Let's be honest. That one, especially in Mackey Arena at Purdue, one of the toughest places to play. But if you can get one of the 2 against a Purdue team, not only will that look good on your resume going into tournament time, I mean, you might get high praises from a lot of people, and you might get a little. People might look at you a little bit more serious too. You're not gonna. I mean, it'd be huge for a team there. But I mean, a lot of these teams should be wins, and even Illinois, they're a tough team, but I mean, you look at the Badgers. I feel like the Badgers are very highly underrated right now. So they're hot right now, and look out.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is an excitement we've been waiting to feel with Wisconsin. They're built different than what we've seen in the past couple of years here at Madison. Like you said, not so reliant on one guy. Like you were talking earlier there. We were so reliant on Johnny Davis back in the day there when we had Johnny that now, I mean, you look at this team, it's not reliant on Tyler Wall. It's not reliant on AJ Storr. The balanced scoring is the big difference at Wisconsin. And the other day I was listening on the radio there and somebody said something about Wisconsin and they said it was on TV. And they said, the biggest problem with Wisconsin is that they can't shoot the 3 well. They don't have many guys who shoot the 3 really well. You don't need guys that shoot the 3 really well. Oh, no, I was listening to another podcast. That's what it was. I can't remember what the podcast name was, though. I was like, shout them out so that they could come back at us. But they said they were talking about Badger basketball, and they said something about Wisconsin not having many guys over that 30% mark they're shooting the 3. And I said, that's not Wisconsin basketball. You watch Wisconsin basketball, when they're going right, it's Tyler Wall. It's going to the basket. It's finishing at the rim. You look around the country, Kansas, Marquette, all them teams, they have guys at 37% shooting, 35% shooting, but your bread and butter is in the lane if you're Wisconsin. I wouldn't have it any other way. That's the way that they play the game, and I think it's been successful so far. So I wouldn't change yourself. I mean, look how successful Purdue is. What do? I mean, Zach Edey is the guy, and what does he do? He can't shoot a 3. He had his first attempt at a 3 there, I think, a week ago. I think that was his first attempt at a three in college. He's made a living in the paint. That is where Big Ten basketball is won. That's where you can win ball games in the paint, and that is what Wisconsin can do. And I think right now, where they're at, that's what I would stay with if I was Wisconsin. So with that, we're going to move on here. Wisconsin got the win there, 88-72 over Nebraska. They will be next in action. Oh, I got to check that out now. When are they next in action here?
The 10th, I believe.
The 10th? The 10th here? Yep, the 10th. Wednesday against Ohio State. Ohio State's sitting at 12-3 going into that one as of right now. So that's a pretty big matchup there in Columbus against Ohio State.
Assume that's probably going to be similar as a Nebraska team right there. I haven't looked at any of the stats, but, I mean, another really good team, 12-3, high wins right now. Probably similar to a Nebraska, but could be a little bit better.
Yeah, should be a big matchup there for Wisconsin. So with that, I want to move on here. We had Marquette in action over the weekend. They're dropping a game to Seton Hall. Marquette kind of in shambles right now. Costly turnover there at the end with 4 seconds left. Turned it over out of bounds. That was, for the game right there. 3-point game, 78-75. They lost that one. Seton Hall kind of controlled this one for most of it. Took a 3-point lead into the half and then balanced scoring there in the second, 36-36. That was what really led to the final score, as you would say. So right now, Marquette falls to 2-2 in conference play. Seton Hall at 3-1. Austin, what did we see for some of the key stats in this one that led to the upset there over number 7 Marquette?
Yeah, I said Seton Hall is a good team. They beat Providence, Providence beat the Badgers, and I'm pretty sure Marquette too. So the Seton Hall team was coming out firing, and it showed. Richmond for them had 21 points, Dawes had 23 points, and then Davis had 11 points. It was majority led by those three guys, not a whole lot of scoring coming off the bench. But from Marquette, Iguodala, he had 22 points, Cam Jones 13, Joplin had 15. But when you look at Tyler Kolek, who, it seems like everyone's always talking about Kolek here as being one of the top point guards in the nation, being a really good scorer. He only had 5 points. And I think that's where Seton Hall did a good job at limiting him to only shooting 1 for 3 at 3-pointers and only getting a total of 6 shots off. If you're holding one of the best shooters to 6 shots, and they only make 1, that's pretty effective there. And Marquette only had a chance with I don't even know how many seconds were left. There was only a few seconds left, and I'm pretty sure Cam Jones had a few steals there at the end there that kind of brought it in a little bit closer. And then obviously they had the one chance at the end there, but they ended up turning the ball over. Seton Hall, it seemed like they kind of dominated pretty much the whole entire game. It was 42-39 after the first, but they got up a lot. They got up, and I'm surprised that Marquette was even able to come back. But like I said, Seton Hall, probably one of the most underrated teams. They've beaten some pretty good teams now, and they're probably going to get a little bit more respect going forward.
Yeah, a 10-0 run there by Seton Hall in the second half. Put it at 76-66, like you were saying there, that big run with 2:25 left to play there. The Golden Eagles brought it back 9 straight points to bring the game to 76-75, and that's when they mishandled that inbounds pass there with about 4 seconds remaining. That was the difference in this one. Looking at it as a whole, Marquette is out of sorts right now. The team that we saw early on this year go down to that, I believe they were in the, what was that?
Was it Maui?
Maui, the Maui Invitational. That team we saw in Maui that was pulling off wins left and right, and they put a good run in there, lost to Purdue in the end. But, that was a different team to what we're seeing now, coming up against some of the these conference opponents there in the Big East. 2 losses in the Big East as of right now. It's only going to get tougher. It's only going to get tougher in the Big East. Looking at this game as a whole, like Chaka Smart had to say after the game there, he said it was a bizarre game. There's so many plays at both ends of the floor that we'd like to have back. We didn't rotate effectively, and we didn't put a chest on a defender. Yeah, some of the simple things. Some of the simple things in this one is what really, dug the grave for Marquette. Like you were talking there, Kolek. That was kind of the surprising one, was seeing that Kolek struggled in this one like he did. He had very uncharacteristic. 1 of 6 from the field, 3 turnovers. Not a guy who turns the basketball over much. 3 turnovers in this game, 5 points. That's not a normal night for Tyler Kolek. So you wonder if anything, maybe he had some issues. Maybe he's had an illness, something like that. Something has held him out, something else going on. I'm not sure there. Nothing has been reported. And this is coming off of he had a 2 of 11 against Creighton. So 2 straight games there for Tyler Kolek. That was the last game there for Marquette. 2 of 11 for Kolek there against Creighton. He's had back-to-back games where he's struggled. So getting Tyler Kolek right is definitely going to be a game changer for Marquette moving forward here. Marquette will be in action, I believe,
on Wednesday as well.
That will be also on Wednesday. They'll be on Wednesday as well, taking on Butler. So that should be a pretty good game there. Another Big East battle with Butler there for the Golden Eagles. So with that final 78-75, Marquette took the loss to Seton Hall. But with that, I want to talk about Century 21 Gold Key Realty. Call Peggy Sue or Anna for buying or selling your home this time of year. Find them on Facebook at Home Team Century 21 Gold Key Realty or stop in and see them at their location in Marshfield. But with that, I got to jump over to Austin. Austin's got our fact of the day for Monday.
On this day in 1984, the NCAA announced that the basketball tournament will have 64 teams. I don't know what it was before, but I feel like that's still a pretty big advancement there and a lot more opportunity for other teams to get a chance to win at that national championship.
Interesting. Very interesting. I wonder what it was. Can you figure out what it was before that? Before it was 64? I feel like we should know this, but what the heck was it before?
I'll do some research.
There we go. He's going to do some research for us as we move on here. Wisconsin women's did get the win over the weekend there over Illinois. That was a big win for the Badgers women's team coming off of a loss, moving to 8-6 on the year. 67-61 was the final there. Some of the leaders for Wisconsin, Williams had 27 points on 10 of 17 shooting. The rebounding also led the team, 15 rebounds for Williams. Porter led the team there for Wisconsin with 8 assists. A good game out of Porter there with the assist. Cook for Illinois had 18 points. McKenzie went for 10 rebounds, and Bryant had 4 assists overall. Wisconsin got the big win there. Some of the other notables for Wisconsin, Porter with 14. Other than that, I mean, everybody else kind of level scoring there in the single digits. Wisconsin women will be back in action here on Wednesday. They will be taking on Northwestern at home. That should be a good game for the Badgers women's team coming up there on Wednesday. Other than that, in women's basketball news over the weekend there, just trying to jump over to Marquette here. The Marquette Golden Eagles, they got the win over Xavier, a big 81-52 game. 2 straight losses for Marquette before that, so getting back to winning ways and winning in, major fashion there. Had a massive game, held Xavier to 5 points in the second quarter. That is a big game out of Marquette there on the defensive end. 15 points in total in that first half. So impressive defensive play out of Marquette in this one. Hare led them with 19 points, 6 of 11 shooting for Marquette. Carolyn went for 7 rebounds, and Nukumo went for 6 assists in this game. Lopez led Xavier with 13 points. Blackford had 9 rebounds, and Purvis went for 3 assists in this one. The Golden Eagles are improved to 2-2 in conference play, 13-2 overall. Xavier drops to 0-3 in conference play. Austin, did we find anything out about our tournament?
The bracket is a lot weirder before the rule change. I think there were 32 teams. There were teams had buys, actually. I'm just looking at the rule change was in 1984, but I'm looking at the 1984 bracket. But teams had buys. The first 4 seeds in each region actually had a bye game. So I think that there was only 32 teams in the championship. Not entirely sure though. It's it is an odd bracket, but still seem like there's a lot more games now than there used to be back in the day, which makes sense. A lot more revenue. It's a lot more revenue now that they're able to make.
Revenue, playing field, getting teams in there definitely has it's improved it. I think 64 teams is definitely something. It gets a little more action, gets you a lot more games. I mean, the first couple days of March Madness are just nuts. I mean, there's basketball on top of basketball. You could flip the 4 stations and you're watching a new game. You can get March Madness live and you're watching 4 games at once. I mean, it's crazy. It is definitely crazy. So, like you said, revenue is massive there for the NCAA.
And they also had a national third place game back in the 80s too. So that probably got changed once more teams were added too, because now they just got the Final Four. And
I think that would be interesting. I really do. Because in all reality, you find out who the top team was in the tournament. Well, not really, because there's upsets along the way. And that's just how tournaments work. But I think it would be interesting to see the losers of the Final Four teams get into a 3rd and 4th place game. I think that would be something they could add that would definitely be interesting. That's what I would do. I would love to see, before the national championship is played, earlier on in that day, we get a 3rd and 4th place game between the 2 teams that lost in that Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, and it happened at the year after they added more teams, so that's probably why they got rid of it. It's because they added so many more teams that they just had all these more games that they didn't need this extra game. But like you said, it would be more interesting to have that 3rd place game, and I feel like a lot of people would still watch it. But also, I don't know how the players would like it. They're like, oh, we're playing for what, a third place game? I don't know.
I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's
another game though.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you still take home recognition that you were the best team in college basketball when you win it all. If you get 3rd place, you're the 3rd best team in college basketball after it's all said and done. It's still proving something, at least.
I feel like some people are always like, what if? Like, what if this what if this team actually played this team? Would things be different too? So I feel like there's a little bit of that factor in it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely interesting. Like I said, in the NCAA tournament, do we always get the best teams in the Final Four? No, because there's upsets, everything. I mean, look at Purdue loses as a 1 seed. Virginia loses as a 1 seed. How many 2 seeds we've seen fall? Wisconsin that year, they were number 8. They beat number 1 Villanova. That team had DiVincenzo and Hart was on that team, or Brunson. Brunson was on that team. So, I mean, you look at these teams across the board. Do we always get the best teams? No. It definitely would be interesting to see a 3rd and 4th place game, I would think.
Yeah, definitely interesting. And like you said, I mean, even you look at last year, FAU and San Diego State played against each other. UConn, and I forgot who the team UConn played, honestly. I don't know. Yeah, Gonzaga. Like, those 4 teams are just unusual to begin with, and no one saw FAU being there. No one saw San Diego State being there. And, I mean, you could even say UConn being there was a little bit surprising to some people. So, yeah, every year it's always going to be different. And it is a good reminder that last year was kind of a good refresher that we didn't see like a blue blood, so to say. But also, the ratings did go down a lot last year, and it could be because San Diego State and FAU were in the Final Four, and then it was kind of a beatdown of UConn versus San Diego State after that. But
that was the big thing, was the national championship ending with San Diego State versus UConn. If it would have been Gonzaga versus UConn national championship, I think that would have changed it. But because the national championship ended up UConn, San Diego State, and UConn didn't play a close game the entire tournament. They were blowing teams out by 20 plus during the tournament. Nobody saw it ending well for San Diego State. So
even if FAU was in,
that was an interesting.
Even if FAU was in the championship, I probably would have tuned in for the first half and then be like, "Oh, UConn's got this."
For your basketball fan, I mean, people tuned in to watch. I watched it. I was still watching it because I was like, this is interesting. If they can pull it out, it's definitely going to be an interesting game. So definitely an interesting factor of the day right there. That got us thinking a little bit. But with that, we want to talk about Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in and see the awesome crew down there at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville. But with that, The reason why we're all happy on this Monday, the reason why we haven't blown a gasket yet, and the reason why we saved it for last, the Green Bay Packers. Move on one more week. They punched their ticket to the postseason. 17-9, they took care of the Chicago Bears. Packers led from the second quarter on, the majority of the second quarter on. So definitely, I mean, the Packers left a lot on the table in this one. We're going to get into that, though. Right away, I want to jump into the stats. Austin, talking about the stats here, what did we see from some notable guys in this game?
All I got to say is two words, two names, Jordan Love. And hey, let me tell you, I love him. I love him because he went 316 yards, 27 for 32, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Now, he did have the one fumble, which, I mean, did piss me off a little bit. But also, what are you supposed to do? I mean, he was going for the first down, and he did make the guy miss at first, and then his helmet kind of bumped the ball. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. But that's the only bad thing you can say about him. He had a 128.6 rating, and that's pretty high. Overall, Jordan Love dominated this game. I mean, we only scored 7. It was only 17-9, and granted, you can probably Anders Carlson missed the one field goal, and we should have probably scored another field goal at the end of the half there, but bad clock management, went out of bounds backwards, which, I mean, does run the clock, so that was bad. So if you look at the actual score, it should have been probably 23-9, but it wasn't. It's 17-9, and give credit to our defense for holding a hot Bears team to 9 points. But Jordan Love, star of the show, I'd say tonight. Or last night.
I got 2 words for you. Aaron Jones, and I believe Showtime wasn't used enough in this game.
Aaron Jones did go crazy.
I think they left a lot on the table simply because 2nd and 5. Why are we trying to go back to the past? You know what I mean? Aaron Jones was cooking. He's cooking throughout this game. The offensive line was making him holes, and Showtime was using them. And he was finding his way down the field. And then all of a sudden we flip it. We're like, let's pass the ball now. And then we saw, okay, now it's 4th down. Now we got to punt the ball away. We went from 2nd and 5 to 4th down. I mean, don't take it any other way. Jordan Love played a fine game. I just think there was points in this game where Aaron Jones wasn't utilized enough. I thought there was points in this game where it was like, why are we not giving the ball to Aaron Jones right now and saying, here you go, brother. Take it up the middle and just go crazy. I think the Packers could have controlled this game and controlled the clock a lot more by just giving it to Aaron Jones and letting him cook because the offensive line played well. I mean, you look at Jordan Love's stats, that's a lot contributed onto the play of the offensive line. He was only sacked 1 time in this game for 8 yards. Other than that, time after time, Love had all day in the backfield to be able to pick a guy. The offensive line played well. And I think that had a lot, the development of the offensive line throughout this year, we've seen it, we've loved it. It has grown into something fantastic. But, to me, I don't know if you saw the same thing, but I thought the run game, 22 carries is a lot. That's not anything to shake your head at. But I thought that could have been 35 carries, honestly. Because the way he was running the football, I know you got to give breaks in there. He's the only guy to come into to have a running back to run for Green Bay in this game. But at the same time, I thought the run game was there. We talked about this Bears team in our preview, and we said the Packers were going to have to pass the ball because the Bears' run defense was so good. We made the run defense for the Bears look like it was nothing. Aaron Jones, 22 carries for 111 yards. I think that could have been 150 at the end of the day if we just fed the man. So I don't know. Did you see it some other way in this game than what I did? Because I thought Aaron Jones was underutilized.
Aaron Jones, he was running the heck out of the ball. Like you said, 111 yards on 22 carries, and he was the only running back. The thing is, towards the end, now maybe you're talking about probably in the beginning, we could have ran him a little bit more, but at least towards the end, they were stacking the box. They had everyone, they were loading the box, and he was only getting like 2 yards a carry, and at that point, we're like, we have to pass the ball at least a little bit just to get a little bit more yards. But then even at the end there, he had a really good run that he got a first down, sealed the deal. I thought overall, the offense was pretty balanced. You could have gave Aaron Jones the ball a little bit more, but for how many carries we gave to him, and he got 111 yards. And like you said, our offensive line was playing out of their minds. I mean, only one sack given up, and that was he still had probably 4 seconds to throw the ball. It wasn't like an instant sack where an old lineman messed up. Like he dropped back, and then when he stepped up in the pocket, he got sacked. So it was still like it wasn't a good sack, but I've seen a lot worse sacks by other teams, by way worse teams that we played against. But like you said, our offensive line played out of their minds, and this is another 100-yard game that we've given Aaron Jones. I thought the offense was pretty balanced. Sometimes when I'm watching the game, I'm like, okay, why are we like the jet sweeps and the screen passes to Jayden Reed? Those are the things that get me. Or like if it's 1st and 10 and we just throw a deep bomb, I'm like, sometimes I get you got to take your shots, but I'm like, why are we not running the ball with Aaron Jones? I never really felt that this game. I thought we were pretty balanced overall, but I'm sure there were some points where it's like, just feed the man. But it seemed like after a while, after we were feeding him a lot, they kind of cracked down on it by just stacking the box. And then he still struggled a little bit. But then we'd pass the ball, and then it would open it up for Aaron Jones again for him to run for another 10-yard gain. I mean, he averaged 5 yards a carry. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. 5 yards a carry, that's half a first down every single time. So great job by our offensive line, but Aaron Jones, Jordan Love, and we didn't even talk about the receiving, but Jayden Reed had 112 yards receiving, not a touchdown, but that was on 4 receptions. Bo Melton, once again, this guy is actually going insane for not being on a roster. Or he was on the practice squad, but he had 62 yards again, 5 receptions. And, I mean, granted, he probably could have had that touchdown there if you want to count that. That was it was a weird call. I'll admit. It was a tough call to make. It could have went either way. Tough call, but didn't go our way. Luckily, it didn't affect the game. And then Dontavion Wicks, 6 receptions, 61 yards, but 2 major touchdowns to put us over the Bears in this one.
Yeah. You want me to back to what the Aaron Jones, yes, early on in the game. Later on in the game, they're low in the box. Early on in the game, I thought Aaron Jones should have got more touches. But, my biggest thing I thought about all game, because they flashed to him a couple times. I don't think Christian Watson has a job. I really don't. Because you give me Jayden Reed, you give me Bo Melton, you give me Dontavion Wicks, and you give me Romeo Doubs, and I gotta say, even Malik Heath. You give me those 5 guys who are consistently, Romeo Doubs did go out of this game, but generally consistently in the lineup. I can't trust Christian Watson to be out there. What job do you want to give him? You're wasting, and if you can figure him out in the offseason, you can give me a full season of Christian Watson. Okay, I'll bite my tongue. Right now, you can't promise me Christian Watson is going to be out there every week. Right now, look at before that Minnesota game, he was out in the field catching passes. He was running around. And now, talking about our preview show for this game, we were like, Christian Watson should be out there. He should be out there. He doesn't play again. So it's like, how much more do we have to see? We've had a couple years of Christian Watson now, right? Last year and now this year. Both seasons, he's been limited by injury. Most of the time, it's self-inflicted. He's not even being hit. He, being hurt this second time around this season, he hurt himself coming around on that sweep. With these 5 guys Green Bay has, they have a deep wide receiver room, but I cannot justify paying Christian Watson any more money than than his rookie salary is giving him right now, just because right now, like you just said, Bo Melton playing out of his mind right now. Jayden Reed, we know what we got Jayden Reed. I cannot get rid of Dontavion Wicks because that dude, the yards after the catch that Dontavion Wicks gets is unreal. That is just unreal. He'll catch a 2-yard pass from Jordan Love, and he'll make it into 15, and he'll go through 5 guys on his way down to it. Just unreal. Romeo Doubs, my one problem with Jordan Love, sometimes I fear for his receivers' lives because he still doesn't lead receivers at times. He throws to a spot, and he gets his receivers into very bad positions where I fear they're going to get hurt. If I was a receiver for Jordan Love, I'd smack him. I'd smack him every time I came back to the huddle that he threw me to a spot. That's the only thing I got wrong with his game right now is he can't lead a receiver at times. He had a couple in this game where he led a guy. It was perfect lead, everything like that. That big pass to Jaden Reed there for 59 yards. He led him on the money, and it was phenomenal. That one to Tucker Kraft led him on the money. There was a couple in this one, though, where it was like, I believe the touchdown throw that he tried to make to Bo Melton. Should have led him a little bit. There's another touchdown throw in this one to Wicks. That Wicks got hit. He shouldn't have got hit. If he would have let him perfectly, Dontavian Wicks would have never got hit. He was wide open, but he got hit because of the ball being placed where it was. I mean, there's little things. You're still in your first season. There's things that got to be worked out, things to improve on. That's the only thing I hold against him. That's the only thing I worry about. Romeo Doubs gets clocked a lot because of that. That interception that ball that almost got picked, that had me worried. The decision-making at times scares me a little bit for Jordan Love. All around, great game. Great game by Jordan Love. Just some iffy decisions by Jordan Love that got me like, oh, crap. That one, the throw, I don't remember if it was DJ Moore. I think it must have been DJ Moore. Caught that one. It went to review because it was juggled a little bit. I didn't think that was a catch. I did not think that was a catch whatsoever on that one. It got challenged. Didn't think it was a catch. And then when Bo Melton has his overturned, I was like, what? I mean, how do you overturn that one? I mean, I thought that should have been the makeup call for the one at the other end. I get it. He was still juggling it around. It was a tough call. But I thought the reffing, they didn't call anything until the end in this game. There was no, I mean, the first hold was called near the end of the game. I thought that was kind of ridiculous. They stayed out of it, and then all of a sudden they were like calling everything. Left and right, holding here. I'm like, what is going on right now? That offsides penalty by the Packers defense, and we're going to get into the defense here in a second, but that offsides penalty by Green Bay there, couldn't hold their water, gave the Chicago Bears a first down there. That was another one where we saw the left tackle. He kind of winced up there, and then all of a sudden we see Packers defender. And then the best part was the left tackle points to the opposite side of the line to, I believe it was Preston Smith who jumped off sides on that one. And he points at Preston Smith. How can he see that? He's on the other side.
Well, hey, yeah. As an lineman, you always got to blame. It's always a blaming game. You do it every time. Even if you are in the wrong. Even if you know you false started, you point. You point to the other side. It's just one of the unwritten rules, Trage. It's just one of the unwritten rules.
It was the other end of the offensive line. It was the other end of the defensive line. If it was the guy in front of him, I'd been like, yeah, I mean, I get it. He's right in front of you. You can see that. He's looking at the other end. I mean, he's looking down at Preston.
He's like,
what is going on? I mean,
yep.
The reffing wasn't bad. I won't blame the reffing at all. I mean, both ways, it wasn't. There was no calls all the way.
They let him play, Trage. They let him play.
Yeah, they did. It was definitely a good – I mean, it was a good game. They let him play. I just thought the reffing that did happen, it was like, what is going on? Why are we calling crap now? Just let it go. Just let it go.
Luckily, that wasn't the whole game, though.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, it could have been way worse. So I thought definitely the defense or the reffing was good in this one, staying out of it. The big thing for Green Bay, 10 tackles for a loss in this game. That was massive. Multiple guys getting in the backfield there for a sack. Quay Walker, Brooks, Van Ness had a sack. Devontae Wyatt, I thought his sack was huge. He just bull rushed. He went straight through that offensive lineman and just said, okay, I'm going to get to Justin Fields. They did a fantastic job controlling Justin Fields in this game. I mean, he had some plays where he got out of the pocket and he ran for it, but only 27 yards. This Bears team, did you, watching this game, did you sit there and say to yourself, why are the Bears running it up the middle so much? Why aren't they airing it out at all in this game? Because they relied on the run a lot, and Green Bay knew what was coming majority of the time in this game. Did you see that same thing watching this game?
Yeah, I feel like they were trying to establish a run game that just wasn't going to be there ever. And, I mean, give credit to the Packers D-line. I want to say a very young D-line, just kind of like our wide receiver core. Now, there's like Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Kenny Clark, who those guys are a little bit older, obviously, a little bit more veteran there. But, I mean, Carl Brooks, Lucas Van Ness, and even Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton's even a little bit younger there too. All four of those guys made huge plays. Devontae Wyatt, Van Ness, and Carl Brooks all got sacks in this game. Carl Brooks had 2 tackle for losses. I mean, they were trying to establish the run, and I mean, they were not going to veer away from that. I mean, they kept trying and it just wasn't working. And that just gives credit to the Packers D-line there. I'm just staying strong and kind of eating up blocks. And, I mean, Quay Walker, he had 9 tackles here, 6 solo tackles. So, I mean, the Packers D-line, they would eat up blocks. They would get some tackle for losses, but then Quay Walker was kind of right there quickly to fill in. Other linebackers as well. Devondre Campbell was back, so that was good to see. We were a little bit unsure if he was going to play or not. He had 8 total tackles, so that was also good. I mean, we kind of dominated them. And like you said, they could have tried to air it out, but it's hard. It's hard to air it out when their offensive or when their run game is not working. We don't have to worry about the run game at that point. Like you just have to focus on the pass game, and I think that's what helped us there. We were able to limit DJ Moore a little bit. I mean, DJ Moore only had 64 yards, 4 receptions. Cole Kmet, their tight end, had 41 yards, and a lot of the rest of their wide receivers were kind of quiet the rest of the night. Our DBs kind of shut them down, and I mean, there were a couple times that first drive and maybe even the second drive, there were a few quick passes where Justin Fields kind of threw it short, and then they made a play, and it was like a first down. That's how DJ Moore got his first 2 receptions there. He got 2 10-yard gains there right off the bat, but then after that, he was pretty much quiet. And that's also what helped us get those sacks there. Our DBs were shut down, locked down corners the whole night, and then we were able to make plays for the D lineman to get to the quarterback. And I think that's what really helped us in that factor also.
You know what the biggest thing, though, that I saw? The D-line got to the quarterback, but you know when they got to the quarterback there for those 5 sacks? Every single time, I guarantee you, if they had a stat, the Packers were in man defense, man coverage. When you looked at the replays of this game, when the Packers were in man coverage, there wasn't a guy open across the field. Valentine, Jair, everybody was covering somebody, and there wasn't room in between them. They were right on them, and Justin Fields had nowhere to go with the ball. I guarantee you, if you looked at the stats for this one, those 11 completions for Justin Fields, I guarantee you 3/4 of them were against zone coverage. I guarantee it. That big yards for DJ Moore there where he had 33, that was against zone coverage. That big gain by Cole Kmet, zone coverage. Every time the Packers went into a zone, there was guys open everywhere. Justin Fields would have had a field day, that was a pun, against the Packers if they ran a zone the whole time. They switched it to a man defense, and all of a sudden, nothing could happen. We talked about, like I said there, I kind of answering my own question there about the runs for the Bears. They had to run the ball because when they went to a pass, nothing was open. Nothing was open. You couldn't have needled the ball in anywhere because the Packers they have good cover corners. Jair Alexander, we talked about it yesterday, how to utilize Jair Alexander better. He's a man-to-man guy. He can't tackle. So you put him into his zone, he can't make the open field tackle because he throws his body at him and he's going to hurt himself. But you throw him man-to-man, very good man-to-man cover corner. Valentine, I thought, played a great game out there covering receivers. I mean, there's one, he should have picked it off, I believe. It got thrown right at the back of his head there in the red zone. Should have picked it off. It would have been tough. I don't know where
his head was turning, he was going back, and it seemed like it was a fast ball there, and he kind of wasn't expecting it to be that fast, I'm guessing. And I was like,
I don't know where Justin Fields was throwing it. I really don't. That was bad.
I don't know.
I mean, he should have lofted that one up there. But did you see the same thing? The zone versus the man for the Packers. If they play the Cowboys and they go to a zone coverage, they will get screwed so fast because CeeDee Lamb will be all over them like flies on crap. I mean, serious. That's just how it's going to be in that game. So, I mean, did you see the same thing out of Green Bay that I did in this one? The man versus zone defenses.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, and even CBS, Tony Romo, he pointed it out. I can't remember exactly what he said, but kind of like one of those segments during a timeout, whenever they're talking, they pointed it out that it's crazy what happens when the Packers go into a man coverage. And then I think it was after a sack. I'm pretty sure it was after a sack. They showed like why there was a sack. It's because we were in a man coverage and we were locking their corner, or they're locking their wide receivers up, and it allowed time for our pressure to get to Justin Fields. Hopefully this opens up Joe Barry's eyes just a tiny bit, just a little bit. That'd be great to maybe do a little bit more, man. And like you said, against the Cowboys with CeeDee Lamb, zone's not going to work. CeeDee Lamb is going to burn us deep. I guarantee you. at least one time if we try that. And Dak Prescott, really, I mean, you got to give it to him. He's a pretty good quarterback, and I'm sure he's really good at reading defenses. He's gonna find out if you're in a zone or not, and he might call a shot and throw one up to CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's probably going to come down and get it. I guarantee you, because CeeDee Lamb.
You want to make Dak Prescott look good, run his own defense against him. He will eat you apart. I mean, that Cowboys offense will eat you. I mean, they will tear you to shreds out there on that field. So, I mean, if they stick to it, should be a good game. Like you said, though, I mean, we kind of went to my next point there. Packers, Cowboys, going to facing off there. That'll be in Dallas for that one. We don't know. Did they come out with times yet? I don't believe they did.
Not at this moment. I don't think so. They just said that we're playing at Dallas. TBA. TBA, Trish.
Yep. So no announcement on times yet. So what we know is that the 49ers for the NFC, 49ers got the 1, Cowboys 2, Lions 3, Buccaneers, or no, I believe I was wrong. Lions 3. Yes, Lions 3, Buccaneers 4, Eagles 5. Eagles. That was a team that they fell apart. I mean, that team, watching them against the Giants there yesterday, that was atrocious football. That was bad football all the way around. Couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. When I mean, watching that game, seeing the score, I was like, what is going on with the Philadelphia Eagles? Jalen Hurts didn't even play the whole game. I think A.J. Brown got hurt in that ball game there. They had a couple guys go out in that game. Just bad football from the Eagles right now. Rams got the 6th seed. Packers end up with the 7th seed. Rams got a big win to solidify that 6th seed over the 49ers there. Carson Wentz leads the Rams to a big win there against the 49ers.
And that's a huge win for the 49ers. I mean, not for the 49ers, for the Rams. I mean, especially because you look at 49ers had the ball, and they were driving a couple plays, and then Sam Darnold ended up fumbling it. But if you look at they lose that game, Rams are playing the Dallas Cowboys instead of the Lions. Now, I don't know if I'm you or them or whatever, but I'd rather be playing the Lions than the Dallas Cowboys because the Dallas Cowboys are hot. And they're not really missing a beat. The defense for the Dallas Cowboys, especially in Dallas, really good. I'm pretty sure they average almost a turnover per game when they're playing at home. And so the Rams being able to win is huge. And now we see Matthew Stafford playing at Detroit, but on the Rams. And then we see Jared Goff playing for Detroit against his former team, the Rams. And now we see also the Packers playing against Mike McCarthy in Dallas, which, I mean, if you can remember, Trage, we kind of owned that place in the playoffs. So let's see if Jay Love can live up to the Aaron Rodgers comparisons and continue to win against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas.
The one team, if I was the Detroit Lions, I was praying for the Rams to lose to the 49ers. I would not want to face the Rams right now. I mean, the Packers are hot. They're hot. But that Rams team, the way that they turned their season around, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald still on that defense, Sean Maffei running the show. That's a dangerous team. If I was the Lions, I would have said, I'll take my chances with Green Bay one more time than to face that Rams team.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't help that for the Rams, at least, it didn't help right away that, I mean, Stafford was hurt for a lot of the season at the beginning because when the Rams played the Packers, he was hurt. Also, Cooper Kupp was hurt. So a lot of these players were hurt. And Trage, actually, the Packers are going to play at 3:30 p.m. on Sunday, January 14th. So there you go. That's when the Packers are playing. It just came out, and that's when they will play 3:30. I don't know if it's on Fox or CBS. Oh, it'll be on Fox. 3:30 Sunday, January 14th on Fox. That's when the Packers are playing against the Cowboys in Arlington.
Awesome. So that's a good game. That is going to be a good game for the Packers. You know, I like it better than the Packers playing the Lions for the simple fact of I don't care what happens in the playoffs. I want the Packers to win. I really do. But I don't care. I don't care if they win, they lose. I want to see the Packers against somebody else, one of the top teams in the NFC, squaring off in the playoffs. Because we faced the Lions twice. We know what the Packers can do against the Lions. The Thanksgiving game, the Packers controlled it from the beginning. The game before that, the Lions kicked the crap out of them. I want to see the Packers against the Dallas Cowboys because this is a different team. We haven't faced them yet. What does Jordan Love do against an unknown team, right? We faced the Lions twice. He got that, after that first game against the Lions, he knew what was coming in that second game. You look at the difference between how he played against the Vikings the first time versus the Vikings the second time. You look at the difference in those games, he got better. What does he do first time out in a pressure game in the playoffs now? It's a big-time game versus the Cowboys, one of the most historic teams in the NFL. Going up against the the man who won a Super Bowl last in Green Bay and Mike McCarthy going and playing against him. Going and playing against a pretty star-studded team in the Dallas Cowboys. Micah Parsons coming up against him. How does he react? How does he get flustered? What are we going to see from this young team going against Dallas? That's what I wanted to see in this. I was hoping to see them play somebody else, even if it was the Eagles. Right now I'd rather play the Eagles than the Cowboys because both teams trending in a different direction, but I wanted to see them against a different opponent, and we're definitely going to see that there going up against the Cowboys now.
Yeah, talk about a challenge, especially for our O-line. Like you said, Micah Parsons. Also, they got DeMarcus Lawrence there. A lot better defense than I feel like we've seen. They got better corners than a couple teams that we've seen. That it'll challenge Jordan Love. Our defense definitely going to be challenged. Cowboys can pretty much do it all. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. They got a really good kicker. Overall, they're a really good, sound team. So it'll be interesting to see how this game goes. And like you said, it'll be a good test for the Packers. A lot of people wrote off the Packers early, especially when they started losing to the Broncos and the Raiders. And they were like, screw this team. This team's not good. They're not going to be making the playoffs. We never did, Trage. We knew it all along that they were going to playoffs. And now here they are, Trage. Here they are. They're in the playoffs. A lot of people didn't even think they were going to make the playoffs ever. Like, they thought, Aaron Rodgers is gone. Jordan Love, he won't be the next coming. Well, guess what, brother? He's the next coming of – not the next coming of Aaron Rodgers, but he's the next coming of another great Green Bay quarterback. And I got Viking fans. I got Bear fans that are friends, and they're like, not this again. Not again. Not again. I'm like, yes, sir, again. And we will continue to own you guys until I guess Jordan Love turns like 40 years old.
And the biggest thing that I hear from them is that the biggest thing is that even in the Packers' down years, somehow they're still in the playoff conversation. We're 9-8. We're 9-8. We made the playoffs.
The youngest team in the playoffs, Trish. Youngest team ever to make the playoffs.
I got to be honest with you. I did write this team off at the beginning of the year.
I know you did. But you know what?
I gotta be honest.
I know you did, but I had to make you seem at least a little good, Trage. I had to make you seem a little good because you host the podcast, so I can't talk down on your name. But I do remember those tough times. And I just want to let you know, I never gave up on them, and I was a Jordan Love fan, number one since day one, and I've just always been here. So I want to point that out also.
This team has grown a lot, more than I thought they would, and that is definitely the key takeaway from this season. But, we're going to get more into the Dallas matchup coming up this week. It's going to be a big week. We're going to dive deep into it, get you guys all ready to go there. Also looking at some of the other playoff matchups there coming up over the weekend that could affect the Packers there moving forward. We got a ton to talk about this week, all kind of action happening in Wisconsin. But with that, that's about all we got for today. Awesome win by the Packers. It's a good Monday here in the state of Wisconsin. But with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow. But until then, deuces.